It is a Saturday morning, the sun is out, the coffee is hot, and there they are, dandelions, clover, crabgrass pushing through the edge of the driveway. You grab a pair of gloves and spend the next 2 hours on your hands and knees, pulling, digging, filling a garbage bag with weeds. By noon, the lawn looks clean. 2 weeks later, it looks worse than it did before you started. More weeds, different weeds. And now they seem to be spreading. You did everything right. You put in the work. And somehow the problem got bigger. Here is why. Every weed you pull activates dozens more. Not because weeds multiply quickly, not because you missed the roots, because of what pulling does to the soil beneath your feet. Your lawn is sitting on top of what soil scientists call a weed seed bank. It is a reservoir of dormant weed seeds lying in the soil, thousands of them per square foot. Some of them have been there for years, waiting for the right conditions to germinate. Those seeds need two things to wake up: light and disturbance. Every time you push your hand into the soil to pull a weed, you disturb the top layer of soil. You bring seeds that were safely buried in the dark up toward the surface. You expose them to light, and within days, they germinate. Illinois Extension has documented this directly. Each time soil is disturbed, through tilling, planting, raking, or pulling existing weeds, it provides new weed seeds the opportunity to sprout. You have not been solving the weed problem. You have been triggering it every single weekend. The lawn care industry in the United States is worth over $100 billion a year. A significant portion of that revenue comes from one thing: repeat visits to remove weeds that keep coming back. A lawn care company comes out in April. They pull weeds, they spray, they charge $200. The weeds are back in June, they come out again. Here is what they are not going to tell you. There is a 3-part method that stops this cycle entirely. It does not require a lawn care company. It does not require expensive chemicals. And one of the key products at the center of it was discovered by a university researcher, patented in 1991, and has been quietly available at garden centers ever since, while the chemical lawn care industry kept selling you the same sprays and repeat service contracts. In this video, I am going to show you all 3 parts of that method. Part 1 is how to deal with the weeds you already have, without disturbing the soil seed bank. Part 2 is a natural compound discovered by accident at Iowa State University that stops new weed seeds from ever establishing, and also feeds your lawn with nitrogen at the same time. Part 3 is the permanent fix, the one that means in 2 to 3 seasons, you barely see a weed at all. Before the method, you need to understand what you are working with. Under every lawn in America, there is a seed bank, a reservoir of dormant weed seeds that have accumulated over years and sometimes decades. These seeds are not dead, they are waiting. Agricultural research has documented seed banks containing thousands of viable seeds per square foot in the top 6 inches of soil alone. Dandelion seeds, crabgrass seeds, clover seeds, broadleaf weeds you have never seen before. Some of these seeds have been dormant for 5, 10, even 20 years, still viable, still capable of germinating the moment conditions are right. And the number 1 condition that wakes them up is light. Seeds buried more than an inch or 2 below the soil surface never see light. They stay dormant, indefinitely. The moment soil is disturbed by a shovel, a rake, a pair of hands pulling a weed, those seeds get shuffled upward, closer to the surface, within reach of sunlight. And the germination clock starts. This is why weeds seem to come back faster and in greater numbers after you have done a thorough weeding session. You did not bring them back. They were already there. You just turned the lights on. So here is the first part of the method. For any weed that is already established in your lawn, stop pulling. Start cutting. Take a sharp blade, a hori-hori knife, a stirrup hoe, or even a heavy pair of scissors, and cut the weed off cleanly at the soil line. Do not dig. Do not wiggle. Do not try to get the root. Just cut. Here is why this works better than it sounds. For annual weeds, like crabgrass, spurge and chickweed, the plant is done when the top is removed. Annual weeds complete their entire life cycle in one season. They live, they set seed, they die. Cut them before they set seed, and they do not come back. The root left in the soil decomposes and actually adds organic matter. For perennial weeds, like dandelions, clover and plantain, a single cut is not a permanent fix. They will regrow. But here is the important thing. Each regrowth is weaker than the last. The plant has to use stored energy in the roots to push up new growth. Do it 3 or 4 times across a season, and many perennials exhaust themselves. More importantly, you have not touched the soil. Not a single dormant seed has moved. There is one exception worth knowing. If a weed has already gone to seed, if you can see the white puffball on a dandelion or seed heads forming on crabgrass, do not cut it in your lawn. Bag it and remove it first. Cutting a seeding plant at ground level still lets the seeds in that seed head disperse when it falls. Cut before seed set, every time. Now here is the part of this video that is going to surprise most homeowners. In 1986, a horticulture professor named Nick Christians at Iowa State University was running an experiment on creeping bent grass, the type of grass used on golf course greens. He was studying a fungal organism called Pythium. As part of the experiment, he used corn gluten meal as a growth medium in some of his plots. Something unexpected happened. In the plots that contained corn gluten meal, no seeds germinated. Not the test seeds, not the weeds, nothing. Christian spent the next several years figuring out why. What he found was that corn gluten meal contains specific proteins, bioactive peptides, that inhibit root formation in germinating seeds. The seed cracks open, a shoot emerges, but the root never develops. And without a root system, the seedling dies within days. In 1991, he was granted a patent for corn gluten meal as a natural pre-emergence herbicide. A natural pre-emergence herbicide, made from a byproduct of the corn milling process, the same stuff used for decades as livestock feed. Here is the part that matters for this video. It also contains 10% nitrogen by weight. A weed killer that feeds your lawn at the same time. Discovered in 1986, patented in 1991. Documented in research from Iowa State University, Illinois Extension, and the University of Maryland. And most American homeowners have never heard of it, because there is no profit in a bag of corn processing byproduct. Here is how to use it. Corn gluten meal is available at most independent garden centers and online. It comes in powder form or as pellets. The pellet form is easier to spread. Look for the words corn gluten meal on the bag, not corn gluten feed, not distiller's grains. Those are different products and they do not work. Application rate, 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Use a broadcast spreader for even coverage. After spreading, water lightly. A 1/4 inch of water activates the peptides and carries them into the soil where the weed seeds are. Then, and this is critical, let the soil dry out. The drying period is what kills the germinating seedlings. The peptide prevents root development. The dry conditions finish the job. If you water heavily or if heavy rain follows your application immediately, the effectiveness drops significantly. The peptides leach too deep. Timing is everything with a pre-emergent. It must be in the soil before the weed seeds germinate, not after. For spring crabgrass and annual broadleaf weeds, apply when forsythia begins to bloom in your area. That bloom is a natural signal that soil temperature has reached 55 degrees Fahrenheit, the germination threshold for most spring weeds. For fall weeds, apply in mid-August. One important note: corn gluten meal prevents all seed germination, including grass seed. Do not overseed and apply corn gluten meal in the same window. If you are overseeding a bare patch, Do that first and wait until the new grass is fully established. Then begin your corn gluten meal program the following season. The research from Iowa State shows that effectiveness increases with repeated annual applications. The highest weed suppression is typically reached in years 3 and 4 of consistent use. Each year, the seed bank depletes. Each year, fewer new weeds establish, and eventually the lawn reaches a state where weeds are the exception, not the pattern. Here is where most homeowners go wrong when they try a pre-emergent for the first time. They apply it too late. They see the first crabgrass seedlings appearing in May and decide to put down a pre-emergent. But at that point, germination has already happened. The seeds have already cracked open. The root development that the pre-emergent is supposed to stop has already occurred. A pre-emergent works on seeds before they germinate. It does nothing to established plants. If you miss the window, you have two options. Cut the weeds at soil level, as described in Part 1, or spot treat established weeds with a post-emergent. Then put your pre-emergent application on the calendar for next spring, well before forsythia blooms. The forsythia timing indicator works across most of the continental United States. If you do not have forsythia in your area, contact your county cooperative extension office and ask for the local crabgrass germination window. They will give you the exact date range for your region. Parts 1 and 2 deal with what is already happening in your lawn. Part 3 is what makes the problem go away permanently. The single most effective long-term weed control strategy is a dense lawn. This is not a metaphor, it is physical reality. Weed seeds need light to germinate. If the grass canopy is thick enough that no light reaches the soil surface, weed seeds cannot germinate. They can sit in the seed bank forever and never become a problem. Every bare patch in your lawn, every thin area, every sparse spot is a germination zone. Light reaches the soil. Seeds activate. Weeds establish before your grass can compete. The fix is overseeding. Any bare or thin area should be overseeded as soon as possible. Use a grass variety appropriate for your region and sun exposure. Rake the surface lightly to create seed-to-soil contact, just the surface, not a deep disturbance. Spread seed at the recommended rate. Keep it moist until established. Once that area fills in, it becomes self-defending. Dense turf is one of the most effective weed barriers that exists. And here is the compounding effect of all three parts together. Part 1 stops existing weeds from setting new seeds into the bank. Part 2 stops new seeds from establishing roots. Part 3 closes the gaps where seeds could germinate even if they did activate. Work all three parts across one full season, and the trajectory of your lawn changes. Not because you sprayed something or paid someone, but because you stopped feeding the cycle that was keeping the weeds in control. Here is a realistic timeline. Year 1. Existing weeds are being cut before seed set. Corn gluten meal goes down in spring and mid-August. Bare spots are overseeded in fall. The lawn still has weeds, but the seed set is disrupted and the new germination rate begins to drop. Density starts to improve. Year 2. Noticeably fewer new weeds. The pre-emergent is working against a seed bank that is no longer being replenished as aggressively. Bare areas have filled in. The lawn looks meaningfully better. Years 3 and 4. The research from Iowa State confirms this is when corn gluten meal reaches its highest effectiveness. The seed bank has been depleted. The density is high. Weeds are present in isolated spots rather than as a general condition. This is not a 2-week fix, but it is a permanent one. Here is what pulling weeds actually costs, not in money, but in soil health. Every time hands go into the soil, the structure of that soil is disrupted. The fungal networks, the microbial communities, the channels built by earthworms, all of it gets compressed and broken up. Healthy soil is undisturbed soil. The less it is touched, the better it functions. The three-part method in this video is not just about weed control. It is about leaving the soil alone and letting it do what it was designed to do. Dense grass on top, undisturbed soil below, a pre-emergent working in the space between them. Lawn care companies will keep scheduling quarterly weed removal visits for as long as homeowners believe that pulling is the answer. The method in this video puts an end to that. The 3 steps are simple. Cut weeds at the soil line. Do not pull. Apply corn gluten meal before forsythia blooms. Repeat in mid-August. Overseed every thin and bare area this fall, then give it 2 seasons. Subscribe. New video every week.